You can't kick us out of the Galactic Council. We literally just got here. Ambassador Sarah Chen's voice echoed through the massive crystalline chamber, her words bouncing off walls that had witnessed millennia of interstellar politics. The gathered alien representatives, all 247 species of them, stared at humanity's sole representative with expressions ranging from smug satisfaction to genuine concern. High Counselor Xixix, a being composed primarily of shimmering plasma contained within an ornate environmental suit, raised what might have been an eyebrow. It was hard to tell with plasma-based lifeforms, and spoke in the perfectly modulated tones of someone who had practiced their disappointed parent voice for several centuries.
Ambassador Chen, your species has been part of the Galactic Council for precisely 37 standard rotations. In that time, you have managed to violate no fewer than 73 of our most sacred protocols, rewritten 12 trade agreements through what you call creative interpretation, and somehow convinced the hive mind of Betelgeuse to start a social media account. Sarah tried not to smile at that last one.
The hive's TikTok channel had gotten surprisingly good engagement, especially their dance challenges. With all due respect, High Counselor, she began, adopting her most diplomatic tone while simultaneously typing out a quick message on her neural implant to Earth Command. SOS, Council being drama queens again.
Might need backup plan Delta. Yes, that Delta.
Perhaps if the Council had been more clear about certain regulations. You taught the Xerxilians how to make coffee, interrupted Sub-Counselor Meep, their antennae vibrating with indignation.
Their entire species hasn't slept in weeks. They've doubled their industrial output and started 3 new space exploration programs. In our defense, Sarah countered, they asked about human productivity secrets. It would have been diplomatically rude to withhold such information. Article 47, Section 12 of the Council Charter specifically encourages the sharing of cultural practices that promote advancement. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. Sarah had them there. Humans might have been new to the galactic stage, but they'd gotten very good at reading the fine print very quickly.
That's not the point! Xixix's plasma form flickered in agitation.
The point is that humanity has fundamentally disrupted the careful balance we have maintained for over 10,000 years. Your species simply doesn't understand the concept of cosmic harmony. Sarah couldn't help herself. She laughed.
Not a diplomatic chuckle, but a full-blown straight-from-the-belly laugh that made several crystalline-based species vibrate in resonance.
Cosmic harmony? She managed between breaths. Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks an awful lot like cosmic stagnation. The chamber went deadly quiet. Even the perpetually chattering hive mind of Betelgeuse stopped mid-tweet. Allow me to share some statistics, Sarah continued, her neural implant projecting a holographic display. In the 37 rotations since humanity joined the Council, cross-species trade has increased by 312%. Scientific patent applications are up 427%. The Galactic Entertainment Network has added more new shows in the past month than in the previous century. And yes, maybe the Xerxilians are a bit caffeinated, but they've also just developed a revolutionary new form of sustainable fusion energy. She paused for effect, something she'd learned from binge-watching centuries' worth of alien political debates, which, until humans showed up, had been incredibly dull affairs. You're not mad because we're disrupting harmony. You're mad because we're making you change, making you think, making you question whether that's how it's always been done is a good enough reason to keep doing something. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their anti-gravity seats. A few were surreptitiously checking their own statistics displays, faces, or equivalent sensory organs, showing growing concern.
Furthermore, Sarah pressed her advantage. I would like to point out that technically, according to Article 923, subsection 7, paragraph 12, line 4 of the Council Charter, written in what I believe you call the Great Compromise era, any species that achieves a minimum of 300% increase in collective council productivity cannot be expelled without a unanimous vote from all member species. The chamber erupted in chaos.
Sarah smiled innocently while Xixix's plasma form turned a fascinating shade of puce. That article was written as a theoretical framework. No species has ever... Oh, but it's still valid law, isn't it? Sarah's smile widened.
And I believe the Xerxilians, riding their caffeine-fueled productivity high, have some strong opinions about our continued membership. Not to mention the hive mind of Betelgeuse, who I hear has just reached influencer status. The next few hours were filled with heated debates, obscure legal citations, and at least one attempted metamorphosis in protest.
In the end, humanity kept their council seat, though with a record number of footnotes and addendums added to their membership status. As Sarah left the chamber, Sub-Counselor Meep caught up with her, antennae twitching nervously. "That was most irregular, Ambassador Chen." "Thank you," she replied cheerfully. It wasn't exactly a compliment. Meep paused, then lowered their voice. "But, hypothetically speaking, what exactly is this espresso the Xerxilians keep raving about?" Sarah's grin could have powered a small sun. "Why don't we discuss it over coffee? I know this lovely little place that just opened in the diplomatic sector. They even have cups designed for non-humanoid species." "This is highly irregular," Meep muttered, but followed her anyway. "Welcome to humanity, Counselor Meep. We specialize in irregular." As they walked away, Sarah's neural implant pinged with a message from Earth Command. "Delta cancelled. Good work. BTW, about that coffee shop. Did you seriously franchise Starbucks to the Galactic Core?"
"Yeah."
She typed back quickly. "Please, give me some credit."
"It's an independent fair trade co-op. We're saving the franchise negotiations for the next civil crisis."
6 months later, the Galactic Council had its first Casual Friday. 9 months after that, they introduced a motion to reorganize the entire governing structure because "that's how it's always been done" was no longer considered a valid legislative argument. A year later, the hive mind of Betelgeuse won the galaxy's most influential content creator award, beating out a collective of photosynthetic performance artists from the Carina Nebula.
And humanity? They kept doing what they did best, causing just enough chaos to keep things interesting, but backing it up with enough progress to make it worth the headache. They never did get any better at following the rules, but they got very, very good at rewriting them. As for Ambassador Sarah Chen, she eventually published a best-selling memoir titled How to Make Friends and Influence Aliens, A Human's Guide to Galactic Diplomacy. The coffee shop franchise rights alone made her one of the wealthiest beings in 3 sectors. The epilogue of her book contained just one sentence. "Sometimes the best way to find your place in the universe is to make the universe change its furniture around." The Xerxilians quoted it at their graduation ceremonies. The hive mind made it into a meme that went viral across 17 dimensions. And somewhere in the cosmic bureaucracy, a very tired High Counselor Zixix added it to the ever-growing list of humanity-induced cultural disruptions, right after introduced casual dress code to formal council sessions, and just before convinced gaseous species that they too can dance. But that's another story entirely. Ambassador Chen, please explain why there's now a food truck serving something called fusion tacos outside the council's main chamber. High Counselor Zixix's plasma form swirled with what Sarah had learned to recognize as resigned exhaustion. Sarah glanced up from her datapad, where she'd been reviewing the latest trade proposals. "Oh, that? Well, after the success of the coffee shop, several council members expressed interest in exploring other Earth cuisines. It seemed efficient to bring the food to where everyone already was. The Arcturian delegate has developed an addiction to something called guacamole," Zixix continued. "They've started trading rare minerals for avocados." "That sounds like a perfectly legitimate trade agreement to me," Sarah replied innocently. "Article 394 specifically encourages cultural exchange through culinary diplomacy." "You're making that up." "Am I?" Sarah's smile was serene. "Check the addendum we added last month during the Great Taco Tuesday debate." The High Counselor's plasma swirled faster, a sure sign of mounting frustration. "This is exactly why we've established the committee to investigate human innovation." Sarah sat up straighter. This was new. The what now? A special committee dedicated to studying and evaluating the impact of human-introduced changes to council society. We need to ensure these disruptions aren't having unforeseen consequences. Fascinating, Sarah mused. And who's heading this committee? Sub-Counselor Meep volunteered. Sarah barely contained her laugh. Meep, who now ran a surprisingly popular coffee review blog and had recently started experimenting with fusion cuisine in their home kitchen. This was going to be interesting. The investigation began the following week. To everyone's surprise, except Sarah's, it took the form of a galaxy-wide documentary series, broadcast live across all council channels and, of course, social media platforms. Today on Humans, a Cultural Investigation, Meep's voice echoed through billions of receivers, their antennae now sporting what appeared to be a tiny journalism cap. We explore the controversial human practice of happy hour and its impact on interspecies diplomacy. The documentary cut to footage of a rather dignified quantum collective engaging in what appeared to be karaoke night at the newly established Earth-style pub in the diplomatic sector. Their rendition of Sweet Caroline was surprisingly good, considering they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ratings soared. The investigation expanded. Soon there were spin-off shows, merchandise, and even a reality competition where different species tried to incorporate human innovations into their traditional practices. The Crystalline Confederation's interpretive dance version of human stand-up comedy won 3 Galactic Awards. "This isn't exactly what we had in mind," Xixix complained during an emergency council session. The investigation was supposed to highlight the disruptive nature of human influences, not turn it into must-see TV? Sarah suggested helpfully. Generate unprecedented levels of interspecies cultural exchange? Boost the galactic economy? The hive mind of Betelgeuse is now offering masterclasses in human-style marketing, someone pointed out from the back of the chamber. And the Xerxilians have opened a chain of combination coffee shop engineering labs, added another voice. Their latest fusion reactor runs on recycled coffee grounds. Sarah watched as the council chamber descended into yet another heated debate about human influence. Her neural implant pinged with a message from Earth Command. "Committee status update?" She typed back, "Going better than expected. Meep's latest episode on Earth sports in space airs next week. Did you know anti-gravity rugby is now the fastest-growing sport in 3 sectors? We have anti-gravity rugby? We do now. I had to give the committee something new to investigate." The response took a few moments. "Sometimes we can't tell if you're representing Earth to the galaxy or just making it up as you go along." Sarah glanced around the council chamber, where a group of energy beings was now passionately arguing about the proper way to make a spacewalk martini, while a collective of silicon-based lifeforms demonstrated their new fusion dance techniques. "Why not both?" she replied. "By the way, you might want to prepare some paperwork. The Arcturians are planning to submit a formal proposal for Earth to host the first Galactic Olympics. Apparently they've been practicing something they call extreme parkour." "Please tell me you're joking." "Would I do that?" "Actually, don't answer that. But do start thinking about how we're going to explain professional wrestling to the council. That's coming up in Season 2 of Meep's show." As Sarah watched the chaos unfold around her, she couldn't help but smile. The Committee to Investigate Human Innovation had been meant to contain and control humanity's influence on galactic society. Instead, it had become the galaxy's hottest entertainment franchise, and a catalyst for even more change. Somewhere in the distant reaches of space, a group of traditionally isolationist gas giants were binge-watching Earth sitcoms and planning their own comedy pilot. A collective of quantum mathematicians had started a book club dedicated to human literature, currently debating the philosophical implications of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And in a small coffee shop in the diplomatic sector, Sub-Counselor Meep was planning the next season of their hit show, while sipping a caramel macchiato and wondering if it was time to try this TikTok thing personally. The investigation into human influence would continue, but everyone already knew the conclusion. Resistance was futile. The galaxy had gotten a taste of human chaos, and like coffee, memes, and fusion tacos, there was no going back. The trouble with success, Sarah Chen was discovering, was that it had a way of multiplying, like bacteria in a petri dish, or memes on the quantum internet, or the number of emergency council sessions being called to address the latest human-inspired development in galactic society. "Ambassador Chen." High Counselor Xixix's plasma form was practically strobing with agitation. "Please explain why there are currently 17 different species camped outside the council chamber demanding we establish an official Galactic Games division." Sarah looked up from where she'd been teaching a group of telepathic fungi the rules of poker. "Would you believe it's promoting interspecies cooperation and problem-solving skills? They're playing something called Dungeons and Dragons in the diplomatic lounge." "The hive mind of Betelgeuse makes an excellent dungeon master," Sarah offered. "Something about being able to simultaneously track multiple timeline possibilities, though they do tend to get carried away with the world building. The Quantum Collective has requested a ruling on whether using their ability to exist in multiple realities simultaneously constitutes cheating at cards." That's actually a fascinating question from both a philosophical and regulatory standpoint. The Arcturians have started a galaxy-wide fantasy sports league. In their defense, anti-gravity rugby really lends itself to statistical analysis. "Enough!" Xixix's containment suit was practically vibrating. "This has gone too far. Games are not proper council business." Sarah stood up slowly, her expression turning serious.
Isn't it, though? Let's talk about what's actually happening here. The Xerxilians and the Silicon Confederation, who haven't had diplomatic relations in 3 centuries, are now co-hosting weekly bridge tournaments. The Crystalline Alliance has started teaching strategic thinking to their young using chess. And just yesterday, I saw a group of traditionally antagonistic species working together to solve an escape room puzzle. She gestured to the chamber windows, where various beings could be seen gathered around gaming tables, their differences temporarily forgotten in the shared experience of play. You're so focused on maintaining what you call cosmic harmony that you've forgotten something fundamental about sentient beings. We need more than just rules and regulations. We need connection. We need fun. We need to remember that despite our differences, we can still sit down together and share in something as simple as a game. The chamber had gone quiet, various council members looking thoughtful, or at least their species' equivalent of thoughtful. Sub-Counselor Meep, who had been unusually quiet during this session, suddenly perked up their antennae.
Ambassador Chen raises an interesting point. Perhaps this warrants another special investigation series? Absolutely not, Xixix began. But it was too late.
Game theory. How human play is reshaping galactic politics. Streaming next cycle on all council channels. Meep was already typing on their datapad. We could include tournament coverage, strategy analysis, cultural impact studies. The reality show possibilities alone, murmured the Hive Mind's representative.
Sarah's neural implant pinged. Earth Command checking in. Please tell us you're not actually revolutionizing galactic society through board games.
She typed back. Would you prefer I tell you about the underground knitting circle that sprung up among the energy beings? They're making quantum scarves. Don't ask me how.
Sometimes we're not sure whether to promote you or launch an inquiry.
Why not both?
We could make it into a game show. The response was quick. That was a joke, Ambassador.
Was it, though? The Arcturians are already working on the pilot episode.
Sarah turned her attention back to the council chamber, where the debate had evolved into an impromptu demonstration of various Earth games.
A group of gaseous entities was attempting to play Jenga using telekinesis, while the Quantum Collective had become fascinated with the concept of rock, paper, scissors, though their multiple dimension version was considerably more complex.
High Counselor, she said softly to Xixix, who was watching the proceedings with what might have been resignation. It was hard to tell with plasma beings. Have you ever wondered why humans invented so many games in the first place? I assume it has something to do with your species' perpetual need to create chaos, came the dry response.
Close, but not quite. We created games because they help us understand each other. They give us a safe way to compete, cooperate, and connect. They teach us strategy, empathy, and how to lose gracefully, or win generously. She paused, watching as Meep attempted to explain the concept of charades to a bemused group of silicon-based life forms. In a way, isn't that what the council is supposed to be about? Before Xixix could respond, a cheer went up from the diplomatic lounge. Apparently, the telepathic fungi had just won their first poker tournament, though there was some debate about whether reading minds constituted a valid strategy.
I suppose, Xixix said finally, their plasma form settling into something approaching acceptance. We should establish some basic regulations for multi-dimensional card games. Purely for diplomatic purposes, of course. Of course, Sarah agreed solemnly. Though you might want to wait until after next week's tournament. I hear the Quantum Collective has been practicing their poker face across several realities. As she walked away, her implant pinged one more time. Update from Earth. The International Olympic Committee wants to know if we're serious about the Galactic Olympics proposal. Sarah watched as a group of energy beings attempted to learn the Macarena, while a collective of crystalline entities debated the merits of different monopoly strategies.
Tell them to start planning.
But maybe warn them that some species take the phrase extreme sports very literally. And the knitting circle. Let's just say the fabric of space-time is about to become very cozy.
The revolution would be gamified, Sarah decided.
And if anyone complained, well, they could always take it up at the next game night. She heard the Hive Mind was planning to run a campaign set in ancient Earth history. Something about dungeons, dragons, and a peculiar human obsession with 20-sided dice. In the end, it wasn't humanity's technology, or their diplomacy, or even their coffee that truly changed the galaxy. It was their ability to turn anything, absolutely anything, into an opportunity for connection, competition, and fun. And if that meant occasionally having to establish new council subcommittees to regulate zero-gravity basketball or quantum chess, well, that was all part of the game. Ambassador Chen, please tell me you did not just approve a request for the council chamber to be temporarily converted into a performance venue. High Counselor Zixix's plasma form was cycling through various shades of distress.
Sarah looked up from the holographic stage plans floating above her desk. Of course not. I approved a request for the council chamber to be temporarily converted into a multi-species cultural exhibition space that happens to include several performance areas. The difference being? The second one is explicitly permitted under Article 786, which encourages the development and showcase of cross-species artistic endeavors in service of galactic harmony. She paused. You really should read some of these amendments you've been signing. The High Counselor's containment suit emitted what might have been a sigh.
I assume this has something to do with the Hive Mind's latest entertainment venture?
Their interpretive dance collaboration with the Quantum Collective did go viral, Sarah admitted. And once the Crystalline Confederation saw the possibilities of combining their natural resonance capabilities with human musical theory, they formed an orchestra, Zixix said flatly. A philharmonic, actually. Their rendition of Beethoven's Fifth is quite impressive, especially when they get to the part where they physically vibrate in harmony with the quantum strings of the universe. Her neural implant pinged. Earth Command here.
Are the reports about a galactic battle of the bands accurate?
Not exactly, she typed back.
It's more of a comprehensive arts festival.
Though the Silicon Confederation's heavy metal band is generating quite a buzz. Literally, they've achieved resonance frequencies previously thought impossible. Do we want to know about the mosh pit situation?
Probably not.
But the zero-gravity mosh pit safety protocols are now part of standard council regulation.
The response took a moment. Sometimes we forget whether you're practicing diplomacy or running the galaxy's biggest entertainment complex.
Sarah glanced around the council chamber, where various species were already setting up installations. A group of energy beings was creating what they called quantum performance art, while the telepathic fungi had developed a fascinating form of psychedelic theater that played out directly in the audience's minds.
Why choose?
She replied.
Besides, wait until you see what happens when the Arcturians discover Broadway musicals.
This is completely unprecedented, Zixix was saying, watching as a team of Xerxilians constructed what appeared to be a combination coffee bar and experimental sound installation.
That's what makes it exciting, Sarah countered.
Look around, Counselor. When was the last time you saw this many different species working together voluntarily? Creating something new? Finding ways to express themselves that transcend traditional species boundaries? The Hive Mind is teaching a workshop on collaborative poetry, Zixix noted with what might have been reluctant interest. And the gaseous entities have developed a fascinating form of abstract expressionism. Turns out they're quite talented at cloud painting.
Sub-Counselor Meep hurried past, their antennae now adorned with what appeared to be a beret. Ambassador Chen, the quantum physics performance piece is ready for your review. We're calling it Schrodinger's Jazz Band. They simultaneously exist and don't exist while playing in multiple dimensions. Fascinating, Sarah said sincerely. Though perhaps we should add a warning about potential reality fluctuations during the saxophone solo. Her implant pinged again. Update requested on cultural integration protocols. Currently watching a collective of silicon-based lifeforms perform an a cappella version of Bohemian Rhapsody, while a quantum superposition provides the light show. We'll file detailed report once the universe stops vibrating in B-flat. That was meant to be a serious inquiry, Ambassador. So was my response. By the way, the Royal Galactic Shakespeare Company is looking for suggestions for their first production. Thoughts on A Midsummer Night's Dream performed by actual energy beings? The festival opened 3 cycles later. The council chamber transformed into a sprawling multidimensional exhibition space, buzzed with more energy than a quantum reactor. Art installations defied physics in ways that made scientists reconsider fundamental laws of reality. Music from 100 worlds blended into harmonies that brought tears to multiple sets of sensory organs. Dance performances transcended physical form itself. Sarah stood at the center of it all, watching as species that once barely acknowledged each other's existence now collaborated on interpretive performances of Earth's greatest hits. The Crystalline Philharmonic was preparing for their debut, their bodies shimming with anticipation. The Quantum Collective's jazz ensemble was tuning up across several dimensions simultaneously. It's chaos, Zixix observed, floating beside her. It's beautiful, Sarah corrected. This is what happens when you let beings create freely, without worrying about whether it fits into traditional categories or follows all the rules. The Arcturians are planning an immersive theater experience. I heard. They're calling it Hamilton, a quantum musical. Sarah grinned. Apparently, they're very excited about the idea of performing multiple historical timelines simultaneously.
Before Xixix could respond, the lights dimmed, across several spectrums and dimensions, and the first performance began. The hive mind of Betelgeuse, in collaboration with a collective of gaseous entities, presented their interpretation of human street dance, complete with gravity-defying moves that were technically impossible according to known physics. The audience, representing every known form of sentient life in the galaxy, watched in rapt attention. Someone, possibly the telepathic fungi, was broadcasting waves of pure emotion that had several energy beings literally glowing with appreciation. Sarah's implant pinged one final time. Earth Command requesting status update on galactic cultural integration. She looked around at the chamber. The Silicon Confederation's rock band was preparing to take the stage, their crystalline instruments humming with potential energy. The Quantum Collective's poetry slam was causing minor ripples in space-time. And somewhere in the upper atmosphere, the Arcturians were rehearsing their first flash mob. Mission accomplished, she typed back. Though you might want to prepare some paperwork. I hear the Xerxilians are planning to submit coffee as a performance art. We're not even going to ask. Wise decision. By the way, anyone know where we can get a quantum-stabilized stage? The Crystalline Philharmonic's rendition of the 1812 overture might literally shake the galaxy. As the festival continued around her, Sarah Chen, ambassador of Earth and accidental revolutionary of galactic culture, smiled. They had wanted to kick humanity out of the Council for disrupting the careful balance of galactic society. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy to dance. And somewhere in the distance, the telepathic fungi were already planning their first galactic tour. The Council's emergency response chamber had never been particularly conducive to calm discussion. Today, with its warning lights pulsing in 17 different spectrums, and its quantum alerts chiming across multiple dimensions, it seemed even less so. Ambassador Chen! High Counselor Xixix's plasma form was practically strobing with agitation. Please explain why the Galactic Emergency Response System is being overwhelmed with something called trending topics. Sarah examined her datapad with careful attention. It appears that the integrated communications network we established for emergency alerts has experienced some feature creep. Feature creep, Xixix repeated flatly. Well, you see, once we had the quantum-encrypted communication channels established, it seemed inefficient not to use them for other forms of information sharing. The hive mind suggested some improvements to the user interface. The Quantum Collective contributed their multi-dimensional data compression algorithms. And now we have galaxy-wide social media, Sub-Counselor Meep interjected, their antennae twitching as they scrolled through what appeared to be multiple feeds simultaneously. The Crystalline Confederation's latest symphony performance has gone viral across 3 spiral arms. Their hashtag is trending in both normal and quantum space. Sarah's neural implant pinged. Earth Command here. Please tell us the reports about galactic TikTok are exaggerated. Define exaggerated, she typed back. The Xerxilians' coffee brewing tutorials are actually quite educational, though their time-lapse videos do occasionally cause temporal distortions. This wasn't part of the diplomatic mission parameters. Neither was teaching quantum physics to telepathic fungi, but their scientific meme page has revolutionized theoretical education across 12 sectors. The response took longer than usual. Sometimes we wonder if you're actually advancing human interests or just enjoying watching chaos unfold. Sarah glanced around the emergency response chamber, where various species were engaged in what could only be described as a multi-dimensional content creation session. The energy beings had mastered the art of making their containment suits perform synchronized dances, while the silicon-based life forms had developed a fascinating form of crystalline ASMR. The chaos is advancing human interests, she replied. Did you know the Arcturians just established the first Galactic Creator Economy Summit? They're revolutionizing interstellar commerce through influencer marketing. The situation is unprecedented, Xixix was saying, their containment suit emitting what might have been a sigh. We have reports of species developing new forms of communication just to participate in these social media platforms. Isn't that exactly what we wanted? Sarah countered. The Council's primary mission is to facilitate understanding and cooperation between species. What better way than letting them share their daily lives, their art, their ideas, even their memes? The hive mind has become a content creation powerhouse, Meep noted, still scrolling. Their multi-consciousness approach to social media management is particularly innovative. And the Quantum Collective's reality-bending reaction videos are pushing the boundaries of both entertainment and physics, Sarah added, though we should probably establish some guidelines about causing temporal paradoxes for likes. The chamber's quantum alerts chimed again. this time announcing that a collaboration between gaseous entities and crystalline beings had achieved viral status across the galaxy. Their fusion of cloud art and resonance harmonics had spawned countless reaction videos, remixes, and what appeared to be a new form of quantum meditation. Sarah's implant pinged. Update required on social media impact assessment. Currently watching a telepathic fungal collective explain quantum entanglement through interpretive dance memes. Their educational content has higher engagement rates than cat videos. Speaking of which, wait until you see what happens when the silicon-based life forms discover pet videos. They don't have pets. They're making quantum pets. Don't ask. But their quantum cuteness hashtag is breaking reality in adorable ways. The response was immediate. This is getting out of hand. On the contrary, Sarah typed, watching as a group of energy beings practiced their latest TikTok dance challenge. Their plasma forms creating patterns that technically violated several laws of physics. It's bringing the galaxy together in ways traditional diplomacy never could.
The Council needs to establish regulations, Zixix declared, their plasma form swirling with concern. We cannot have uncontrolled information spread across— Actually, Meep interrupted, antennae perking up with excitement. I've been documenting the phenomenon for my new series. Going viral. How human social media transformed the galaxy. The first episode already has 1 billion views across dimensional planes. The Crystalline Confederation is hosting a creator convention. Someone added from the back of the chamber. They're calling it Galacticon. And the Arcturians have developed something they call space influencer marketing. Another voice chimed in. Their sponsored content about anti-gravity rugby reached every known civilization in the sector. Sarah watched as the emergency response chamber gradually transformed into an impromptu content creation studio. The hive mind was collaborating with quantum entities on what they called multidimensional storytelling, while the telepathic fungi had started a surprisingly successful podcast about consciousness expansion. Her implant pinged one final time. Earth Command requesting clarity on mission objectives.
She looked around at the chamber. The Silicon Confederation was hosting a live streaming event about crystal growing techniques, their audience spanning multiple dimensions. The energy beings had mastered the art of quantum photography, capturing moments that existed simultaneously across parallel realities. And somewhere in the digital ether, the Arcturians' first mukbang video featuring Earth cuisine was breaking all known engagement metrics. Mission proceeding exactly as intended, she typed back. Though you might want to prepare for some interesting cultural exchanges. The Xerxilians are planning a coffee-themed reality show. We're afraid to ask about the format. Let's just say it involves extreme brewing conditions and quantum taste testing. Their pilot episode about zero-gravity pour-over techniques has already spawned 3 new scientific theories and a cult following. As the social media revolution continued to unfold around her, Sarah Chen, Earth's ambassador and accidental digital transformation consultant to the galaxy, smiled. They had wanted to regulate human influence on galactic society. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy to share, to create, to connect, one post, one video, one quantum meme at a time. And somewhere in the vast digital expanse of space, the hive mind of Betelgeuse was already planning their next viral sensation. Cooking with Consciousness, a multi-dimensional culinary journey. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly the point. To be continued.